Okay, so today we're going to be working on rotations. In the past, we've talked about rotations before. However, it was more about identifying, is it a 90-degree rotation, is it a 180-degree rotation, or 270 degree. Now we're going to actually figure out how to do the rotation. So let's go ahead and get started on our first example. It says here, the following figures were rotated 180 degrees counterclockwise. Write the coordinate pair of the pre-image and the image. So the first thing I want to talk about is counterclockwise. So we know a clock ticks this way. This is called clockwise. Okay? So counterclockwise would mean the opposite. So counterclockwise is technically turning towards your left, I guess you can say. Okay? So I want you to understand that. So right now we are focusing on 180 degrees. And the other thing I want to mention is pre-image and image. Pre-image is your original point. Image would be the image after the rotation. Okay? So the first thing we want to do is identify our pre-image coordinate pairs. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out M, W, and B. So here for M, for those of you that have forgotten, the way we get to the order pairs, you start at the origin, and then you figure out left and right first, and then up and down. So here, since I'm going 2 to the left, that's a -2. And then I would have to go 3 up, so that's +3. For W, I'm going to go to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. So since it's left, it's -4. Then I'm going to go up, 1, 2, so that's up 2. So that's positive. For B, it's going to be to the left, 1, 2, 3, so that's a -3. Then it went down 2, 1, 2. Since it's down, it's negative. Okay, so that's the first step, is identifying the pre-image. Now you're going to find the image. Here's the most important part. For the image, you must now not just write M, because then I'm not going to know the difference between the two. You have to include something called the prime. So M prime. So basically it's an apostrophe. Okay, in your homework, I expect you to include that apostrophe. If you don't, I will mark it completely wrong. Okay, because we need to distinguish between the 2 points. So for M prime, which is found right here, I went to the right 1, 2, so that's +2, and then it goes down 1, 2, 3, so that's a -3. Okay. Then it will do W prime. So W is right here, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Since it's the right, it's positive. Then it went down 2, so that's a -2. And then for B prime, we have, which is right here, we went to the right 1, 2, 3, so that's positive. And then up 2, so that's +2 as well. Now, I just want you to take a look. From M to M prime, look at the coordinates. It went from -2, 3 to 2, -3. For W, it went from -4, 2 to 4, -2. And then for B, it went from -3, -2 to 3, 2. Are you guys noticing a pattern? Yes? Okay, so now to make sure, because sometimes we recognize patterns, but we're not always right. Okay, we sometimes assume too much. So before we make that assumption, we're going to try example number 2. What I'm going to do is provide you the pre-image, and then you're going to write down the image. Okay, so here, let's start with S, G, and X. So for S, I have 1, 2, 3. Since it's to the left, it's -3. And then it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a +4. For G, I went to the left 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's -4. Then it goes up 2. So that's positive. X, I went to the left 2. So that's negative. Then I don't have to go up or down, so it's just 0. So now you're responsible for finding me S prime, G prime, and X prime. Notice the image is the variable with the prime. Another thing I want you to remember is please include your parentheses. A lot of students like to leave them off. So remember again to include the prime symbol as well as the coordinates. So go ahead and try number 2 real quick by yourself. So what did we get for S prime? Kevin, what did you get for S prime? Perfect. What did you get for G prime, Ethutha?
4, -2.
Perfect. And then what did you get for X prime, Haley?
2, 0.
Perfect. So here, ooh, let me see hands. Rachel, what do you notice?
S prime is 3,
Is that what you said? Ooh. Let's take a look real quick. S prime, we went over 1, 2, 3. So that's positive, but notice here, you would have to go down 4, so that would be a negative. So thank you for catching that. Are there any disagreements? Any other disagreements? Perfect. So now, are you reaffirmed what the pattern is? Yes?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now go ahead and try 3 on your own. Go ahead and try 3. So at this point, I'm hoping that most of you guys can recognize the pattern. In most cases, you recognize it, you're going to have a hard time explaining what you see. So would anyone like to share what they notice as a pattern? Onyx, what do you notice as a pattern? They're opposite. So here, help me out. What should I write here? It's the opposite of what coordinate? Okay, so let me be more specific. So the first thing you do is you take the opposite of the x coordinates, right? All of these are the x coordinates. You take the opposite. And then you take the opposite of the y coordinates. Okay? So that's what happens, because most of you guys notice it's the opposite, but you have to be specific. It still stays in the same order, doesn't it? It's still x comma y. It's not negative, the opposite of y than the opposite of x. It's still in the same order. So I'm going to be a little bit more specific and write that it's basically the opposites of x coordinate, comma, the opposite, I'm going to put OPP for short, of the y coordinate. And this is going to make a little more sense on the back side, why I'm being so specific. So it says I'm going to take the opposite of the x coordinate, and then I'm going to take the opposite of the y coordinate. So here, for this one, for D, the first thing I want to write is D prime. For all of these examples, please write at the very top, rotate 180 degrees counterclockwise. But if you remember from the first lesson about rotation, isn't it the same thing as a clockwise rotation? It's the same thing, okay? So for here, I'm going to use what I have here. I'm going to take the opposite of x, so the opposite of negative 5 is 5. Then I'm going to take the opposite of y, so the opposite of negative 5 is 5. And then I'm going to repeat f prime. I'm going to take the opposite of x, so the opposite of 3 is negative 3. The opposite of y, so the opposite of negative 1, the opposite of 1 is negative 1. So help me out here. For m prime, it would be the opposite of x, so that would be 7, and then the opposite of y would be
-1.
perfect. And what am I missing, guys?
Prime.
Prime. That's what a lot of you guys are going to miss on your homework. And again, if you miss it completely, I'll mark it wrong to teach you that you need to include it. Otherwise, you're not saying the right thing. So for q prime, help me out for the last one. For q prime, I'm going to take the opposite of x, so that would be,
0.
is there such thing as negative 0?
No.
No. And then I'm going to take the opposite of y, which is negative 5. Now I want you to go ahead and try E, F, G, and H on your own. Okay, so now we're going to spice things up a little bit, just to make it a little bit more challenging. Now they're asking us to, it says the following figures were rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise. So now it's not 180, it's 90 degrees. And you're going to notice that the rule does not apply to a 90-degree angle. It's slightly different. Darn. Okay, so it says to write the coordinate pair of the pre-image and the image. And again, it's the whole idea of this is so that we can figure out what's happening. What is the rule? So for pre-image, let's write this down. D is 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 4, comma, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have E, which is 1, 2, so that's negative. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. T is going to be 1, 2, 3, it's negative, and then 1, 2, positive. Now I'm going to give the image, so now I have to figure out what D prime, E prime, and T prime is. Notice I like to put the primes first right away because I know that I'll forget it. Okay, so D prime is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, so they're both negative 4, negative 4. E is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. So negative 5, negative 2. T is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, -2, -3. If you're curious, they're both negatives because not only is it going to the left, but it's also going down. So now looking at these order pairs, I want you to look and see, can you find a pattern? This one might not be as obvious, okay, as the last one, but take a look. Do you see a pattern? Okay, some of you do, some of you don't yet. So let's go ahead and go to number 6 to see if number 6 will reveal anything more. So here I'm going to go ahead and write the preimage of V, L, N, and I. So V, it's 1, 1, so I'm going to put 1, -1. L, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, so it's 4, comma, -2. N is going to be 0 because it's not moving left or right, but 1, 2, 3, so 0, -3. And I is going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 3, comma, -5. Now it's going to be your responsibility to find out what V prime, L prime, N prime, and I prime is. Go ahead and try that on your own. So what did we get for V prime? Deja, what did you get?
For V prime, I got 1,
1, 1. What did you get for L prime, Jose?
For L prime, I got 2, 4.
Good. And then N prime, what did you get, Steven? Perfect. And then I prime, what did you get, Ashley?
I got 5.
So are you starting to see the pattern now? Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
And I want you to describe it like the way we did before. We said first is the opposite of x, comma, the opposite of y. Okay. In this note, I want you to go ahead and try number 7 on your own. Try number 7. So a lot of you recognize that the x's and the y's switch the ordered pairs. So the x becomes the y and the y becomes the x. However, we also took the opposite of one of the coordinates, and it was your original y coordinate. Okay? So I would write this as the opposite of the y coordinate, comma, your x coordinate. So what would that look like? So here, I have some examples for you. I want you to rotate them 90 degrees counterclockwise. So what would I do? Here, for D prime, I would say the opposite of y. So what's the opposite of -5? It is 5. And then I have to figure out what x is. It's just -5. I'm going to repeat that for F prime. I'm going to take the opposite of y, so the opposite of 1 is -1, and then I write down x, which is 3. So help me out here. For M prime, what is the opposite of y, everyone? -1. And then what is x, everyone?
-7.
Perfect. And then for Q, just for Q? Q prime. What's the opposite of y? And then what's x? That's it. So now go ahead and try E through H. Now for your homework, what you're going to notice is they're going to mix it all together, and you have to decide, okay, what rule you're going to have to use. So it says here, write the coordinate pair of the pre-image and the image given the following rotation. So here's my suggestion to you. I would start with the trickiest one, which is the 90-degree rotation. And then I'll go back and do all the 180-degree rotation. So eyes up here. What I would do first is do the 90-degree counterclockwise rotation. So here, I would say D prime is, again, I'm going to have to take the opposite of y, so the opposite of -1 is 1. And then I'm going to take what x is, so it's -1. I'm going to skip B, I'm going to jump over to C because it's a 90-degree rotation. I'm going to say M prime is the opposite of y, so it's going to be -7. Then I get to keep x, so that's -3. Now I can go to the easier rotation, which is 180 degrees. All I have to do now is do the opposite. So F prime becomes -9, comma, -4, and Q prime becomes 0, comma, -5. Okay, that's it. So again, I suggest you do the 90-degree rotations and then follow with the 180-degree rotation afterwards. Okay, so go ahead and try the next ones on your own. Go.